I hear the same thing from literally hundreds of women. You have the best intentions to set aside dedicated writing time, and yet somehow something else always comes up. Well, oftentimes the cause of this problem is a little bit more complicated than you might think. So today I want to talk about why this keeps happening to you. And then, of course, I'm going to give you 6 easy, practical ways to make sure that you never lose your writing time again. Stay tuned. You've got the story, you've got the idea, you just don't know the steps in the process. If this is what's holding your memoir back, I have got the solution for you. The Memoir Method Checklist is going to take you through every single step you need from idea to published marketable book. And you can download it now at pageandpodium.com/checklist. Trying to squeeze that memoir project into an already packed calendar, it can feel impossible to get the time, the mental space, and the silence to actually make progress on this project. So why is this the case? We hear it all the time that we need to set aside dedicated time to write. And that advice sounds so obvious. Of course, I will just block it off on my calendar, and what could go wrong? But I guarantee if you are watching this video, you have experienced what can go wrong. And most of the time, the stuff comes out of nowhere. Our kid needs a ride to a commitment. We need to help our spouse with some house project. There's a crisis at work that only we can solve. Whatever the issue might be, it can feel so impossible to keep giving ourselves the consistent, focused time that you know you need to make progress on this memoir. So today I want to talk about some simple, practical, straightforward tips that are going to help you make sure you get that dedicated writing time and that you use it the way I know you want to. But all of the tips I'm going to share in this video are going to be hugely boosted if you have a big, overarching 10,000 foot plan. And that's why, really quick, if you have not downloaded the Memoir Method Checklist, I want you to go get it right now. It's going to give you every single step in the process, and I promise you, having that bird's eye view is going to make all of these tips make so much more sense, and it's just generally going to move you forward in your project so much faster. So if you don't have that, pageandpodium.com/checklist. Go download it right now and then come back to this video. And let's talk about what is causing this issue. Why are so many women like you losing the time that they need to get these projects done? We care about them so much. Why can't we just make ourselves do it? Well, the answer to this question lies in the question. As we're asking ourselves why we can't make progress, all we are doing is piling more and more and more and more pressure on ourselves. And I bet that you've experienced this. If you have ever sat at a laptop and stared at that blinking cursor and just mentally beat yourself up for not getting words on the page, you are doing something that is so counterproductive to the thing you're trying to achieve. It's the thing that I want to stop today, and that is that it is not enough to set up dedicated writing time for yourself. It's not even enough to set up dedicated writing spaces for yourself. What we need to do is set ourselves up for success. So there are 2 causes here that I want to make sure that you're thinking through as we move into those 6 tips later on. And the first cause is that we don't have a plan. Now, I teased this a little bit ago when I was sending you over to pageandpodium.com/checklist to download the Memoir Method Checklist, because one of the things that I really notice is that so many people try to set this dedicated writing time aside, but they don't necessarily know what they're working on or what they're working toward or what they need to accomplish at each stage of this process. Once we know where we're headed, once we have a really, really clear sense of what we need to do during each of our writing sessions, getting that writing done becomes so much easier. Rather than sitting down with all this pressure, not only to write, but to figure out the plan for what we want to write, what's realistic to write, what's actually going to come out of us. Well, that's enough pressure to put anybody off their writing, right? So what we want to do instead is make sure that we are setting ourselves up for creativity, because the second part of this cause is that creativity cannot thrive under that kind of pressure. It simply can't. I talk about creativity on this channel all the time because what I find is that the hardest thing to do when you're working on a memoir is to combine that creative instinct, that instinct to express ourselves, to share our stories, to help other people, that creative bit of us, to combine that with the practical steps of actually getting words on a page that other people want to read. That is a really, really difficult balance to strike. We are both looking for this kind of expressive nature while we're also dealing with the fact that our brains are telling us that maybe we're not good enough. Maybe we shouldn't be writing this project at all. Maybe it would be way better to spend the time with our kids or our spouse or whatever the case may be. But actually, when we give into that creative impulse and put that kind of pressure, that kind of stress aside, what we allow ourselves to do is show up. As humans, this impulse to create is at the core of who we are. And what I find happens to so many people, especially women, is that we have that creative impulse, but we squash it down because we believe everybody else has more right to our creative energy than we do. But it isn't true. It's not true. All we need to do is give ourselves the permission to show up as our full selves for us, for our books, so that we can show up better for everybody else once we have this kind of creativity out, once we've gotten this expressive time, once we have actually showed up for ourselves and used that writing time the way we want to. You know this. We'll be so much more pleasant, so much more supportive, so much more ready to engage with our friends and our family and our community and our work in the way that we want to. But you've got to have a plan. It is not enough to just set that dedicated writing time aside, because when we focus just on carving out that writing time, what happens is that so often our mindset will shift to this really kind of self-sabotaging, kind of self-destructive point where we're just criticizing ourselves for not getting done with what we wanted to get done. It's understandable, but it has got to go. So that is part of why today I want to make sure that I'm not only talking through this important cause, which you'll see in yourself if you watch for it, but I also want to give you some tips that are specifically coming from this point of balancing that pressure with that creativity that we need so badly. These two things can coexist. It's just that we've got to get them into harmony. So let me give you 6 practical ways that you can help to get these kind of two parts of your writing persona into balance so that you can make the progress you want to make and show up for the people you love in the way you want to show up for them. Okay, all right, so I teased the first tip already. A little bit of a spoiler alert there. But the first tip is to know your goal for the session. Now, if you have not done the legwork to figure out what the overall kind of structure of your book is, this is going to be really, really difficult, if not actually impossible. And let me tell you what I see people do when they are missing this really, really crucial part of a plan. What I'll usually see is that folks will set kind of arbitrary writing goals. And it usually is, I'm going to write for 2 hours, or I'm going to write 600 words. It is typically going to be one or the other of these. Now, these are both fine ways to measure progress because they're quantitative, and it's kind of nice, I think, sometimes to kind of know a quantitative goal that you have set for yourself. The problem is that is only going to be a pressure goal, never a creativity goal. So what we need to do is we need to slow down to speed up. If what you are finding is that your writing time is slipping away from you, you are getting frustrated by that, you're not getting done what you want to get done, I want to ask you, do you have a solid, detailed outline? Now, this came up in a conversation I had pretty recently with one of our memoir method graduates, one of the graduates of our group program. We help women write their memoirs. Oftentimes, these are very, very busy women. They have full lives. Anyway, I was speaking with Hope about this, and one of the things that she mentioned to me was that when she had kind of started trying to write her memoir on her own before she joined the program, she had just kind of made like a bullet point outline, right? So she knew what she wanted in each chapter, and she kind of had a sense of kind of how the overall flow would be. That's all really great. But what she found, what you will find every time with this type of bulleted outline, is that as you're going through, that bulleted outline isn't actually going to give you all that much support. So, what do we do instead? Instead of just jotting down an outline or even spending some time on it, but leaving it pretty thin like that, I want you to actually take the time to sit down and write about 100 words to 150 words per chapter. So if you've got that little bullet point outline, if you've got that started, you probably have a pretty good start on this. If you need a little more support, look back through our previous episodes or blog posts, and we've got a lot of stuff on how to structure your memoir. Once you have that kind of bullet point outline, though, the next step is crucial, and that is to actually write those descriptions of your chapters. Now, sometimes people will get a little bit frustrated at this point. Why are we writing all of these words that are never going to be seen by anybody? Well, for one thing, you can actually get feedback on a detailed outline. It has enough details to tell the story. But the more important reason that we lean toward this detailed outline is that when we have an actual significant chunk, a real description of the chapter, when we sit down for our writing time, we know exactly what we need to do. If we just finished chapter 4, we look at chapter 5's summary on the outline, we get kind of a refresher of what's supposed to go in that chapter. What were the things I was thinking should go here when I was outlining this? That's not going to be all that helpful for chapters 1, 2, or 3, but when you get to chapter 18, 19, 20, I promise you, having that kind of reminder of where you were when you were outlining, what needs to go into this chapter, it is gold. It's absolutely priceless. And for the record, once Hope sat down and did that thorough outline, she booked through that manuscript, pun intended. She was able to knock out a chapter almost every single week after spending literally years of struggling to move forward. All this is the power of an outline. And once you've made that outline, you have a plan. Once you have a plan, you now have allowed yourself the direction to be creative. You know that that creativity is going towards something efficient, which means that we have balanced those two pieces of our brain. We're going to be so much happier moving forward, and we're going to actually finish that book someday. Okay, the second tip that I have is just a mindset tip, but I promise you, this is so powerful. So often, when we are talking about the commitments that we have made, whether those are commitments to our children or our spouse or our work or ourselves, we will use the phrase, I have to. I can't go to the movies. I have to do my writing. Or I can't hop on that work call. I have to do my writing. Or, oh my gosh, I really wish that I could go to my kid's ball game, but I have to do my writing. It is so demoralizing when we talk to ourselves like that. All we are telling ourselves is that we have to do something that is not as fun as the other thing we could be doing, right? I have to do XYZ unfun thing, so I can't do fun thing. Let's knock it off. So instead of saying that I have to do my writing, what if we start to say, I get to do my writing? Now you can see where I'm going here, right? Because when we are in this have to mindset, we are so clearly in this kind of productivity pressure space, right? I have to. There is something very urgent, something very demanding that is taking my time. I have to. When we do I get to, we're really leaning into the fact that this is a project that you are doing for yourself. This is a project that is meant to express who you are. It is a space where you can pour your creativity out, not only for yourself, but to help other people, to share your story, to really stand true and tall in who you are. That is not an I have to. That is an I get to. And my second tip is that as you are thinking about this dedicated writing time, as you are actually following through on holding that space for yourself, don't say I have to. You don't have to. You get to. When we start to do that, we really start to combine these impulses of this expressive creativity with this real desire to efficiently move forward on a project. We get the best of both worlds. We get to. Okay. My third tip is going to be so much easier once you are in this get to rather than the have to mindset. Because my third tip is to steal from different things each week. Now, we're taking a little bit of a swerve here because I want to talk about the actual process of dedicating that writing time. Sometimes the way we get that time is just as important as the way we use it, and this is definitely a case of that. Now, what I hear so often is that when women are taking this time out of other spaces of their lives, so whether that's your family, your friends, your community, your work commitments, whatever it might be, but when we're taking this time away from other things, ooh, the guilt that builds up. Now, this is unsurprising because remember, oftentimes we are trained by society to get rid of that kind of creative, expressive part of ourselves. We are supposed to be productive. If we're not being productive for ourselves, we're supposed to be productive for other people. We're driving them around town, or we're cleaning the house, or we're doing laundry, or we're cooking a meal, whatever it might be. We are being productive, just not for ourselves. And what that means is we keep hearing that message until we start to feel really guilty about wanting that time for writing. And that is the quickest way to start to let go of that dedicated writing time that I know you want on your calendar. So what do we do about this? Well, this is a simple and pretty obvious tip, but I find that a lot of people miss it. And that is steal from different things each week. There is no reason that you need to cut those walks with your husband short. If you really enjoy them, take those walks. Just maybe once a month, once every 6 weeks. That's not a walk time, that's a writing time. But don't do that every time. The next week, maybe you steal from some kind of optional-ish work commitment. Maybe the next time you skip your knitting circle. We can move around the different things that we're doing so that everything can fit. And I promise you, even though it can feel like, oh, but this thing is so urgent, almost everything can wait 1 week. So, this is why my third tip is make sure that you are stealing from different things each week. Oftentimes, this is going to kind of appease that productivity monster without allowing it to eat up all our creativity. We know that once we get through this week's writing session, we'll get back to that other thing that we all so love. And again, we're going to be able to show up with so much better energy because we actually took care of ourselves. We didn't sacrifice something that we love to do something that someone else loves. We did the thing we wanted to do just for that week. And we're going to be back in the swing the next week. So steal from different things on your calendar and really don't feel bad about it. You are doing what you need to do to fill your own cup. That's so important as we go through our lives filling everybody else's cup all the time. Okay, the fourth tip that I want to give you runs a little bit contrary to this idea of stealing time, but it can be really helpful if you're somebody that it hasn't really worked to steal the time. And that is be open to inspired action. Now, sometimes what I find is that we can get so dedicated to our calendar, oh my gosh, I'm so guilty of this, that if the thing is not on our calendar, we're not doing it. No matter how good it would feel, no matter how excited we are about this other idea we had, we're stuck to the calendar. So the fourth thing I want to tell you is to be open with yourself over when you feel like writing. Sometimes we have planned the best day. We have planned out our breakfast time and then we're going to go for our run and then we're going to get the writing done. And I will sometimes find that I wake up and I don't want to go on the run. I want to get my laptop, bring it back to bed and start typing. I used to do this all the time, by the way, and it felt so good at the time. But I felt a little bit guilty because I felt like, I know, but I'm supposed to be exercising, right? Or like, oh, is it really okay to bring my laptop back to bed? Yes, it's so good. Try it. And when we are open to this kind of inspiration, to just the impulse to get some writing on the page, oh, it feels so good. It feels so indulgent, doesn't it? To take time away from something that was for yourself also, and to say, actually, you know what, I think I want to write right now. I'm really excited about chapter 6, and what if I just took this time and did this writing? Nothing bad will happen, I promise. So I want you to be really open. When you feel that impulse toward creativity, follow it, even if it's not your dedicated writing time. Even if your dedicated writing time already passed, if you feel that impulse to write, and if it feels easy, Oh my gosh, that is the best, most creative work you will ever do. When it feels so good to write, do not let that time pass. Grab it, sit down at your laptop, and thank yourself later for following the impulse that you wanted to follow. Okay, my next tip, my fifth tip, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. So I think this is such an important thing to think about in all aspects of kind of creative or humanities type thought. Because one thing that will tend to happen, especially if you are a high achiever, especially if you have always been successful at the things you have tried to do, it can be so difficult to let it be imperfect. Now, oftentimes when I'm talking about imperfection, embracing imperfection, I'm talking about getting your draft down and not going back to revise it until you're done with the whole manuscript. But that's not what I mean here. When I say don't let perfect be the enemy of good, what I mean is you may not be able to get that long, luxurious 3 hours of writing that you want to do on a weekday afternoon. It just might not happen. Unfortunately, there's always something that's going to come up and knock us off course. And what often happens is that because that perfect writing time we'd set aside is now ruined, we just give up on it completely, right? I was going to write for a half an hour before the kids got up, but they got up early. Writing time's gone. Oh well. Or, well, I wanted to write, but now they're doing leaf blowing outside my door. I can't even concentrate. It's so loud. I'm just going to watch TV. Now, in some cases, I am so supportive of this. If you just cannot imagine anything being less fun than writing, that's not your writing day. Don't make yourself sit down if you're going to be miserable. But usually what I find is that if we can allow ourselves to say, well, I really was hoping that it wasn't going to be loud outside, but it just is. What can I do? Maybe I can listen to some quiet music on my headphones. Maybe I can kind of drown it out, forget about it. Maybe I can kind of use it as inspiration. Whatever you have to do. But what I want you to stop doing is believing that everything has to be perfectly in place, perfectly arranged on your desk, perfectly quiet, perfectly whatever you think it needs to be. I want you to let go of that. Very often, the most prolific writers are the writers who embrace the imperfect and let it just motivate them a little bit more. So even if you are not able to dedicate the kind of time and space that you wanted to your writing, celebrate that you've got any time and space at all. That is a great accomplishment, and I promise you, carving that space out and then using it, even though it isn't the perfect way you'd imagined it, that is the only secret to finishing your book. The only secret is embracing the time you have, making a plan, and moving forward. Oh, and one more, my sixth tip. Since we are going to be stealing this time from people that we love, from activities that we love, we are taking this time for ourselves. And that is really important. Because we are taking this time and because there is such pressure to serve everybody else, such pressure for productivity, what I really want you to do is get some support. So often, what happens is that we are beating ourselves up for all these external things, and we don't even really see it. We don't even really see that it is our mindset that's holding us back. We don't even really see that it's the fact that our plan isn't serving us. We can't see what's really stopping us from this project that we so badly want to complete. And that is why an outside person, some outside support, is a game changer. Every client I've ever worked with has said this to me. They have tried for years to get this book down. Once they had accountability, support, and expert advice, things just fly off the page. It becomes so much easier when you have someone to turn to when things are not going well, when you have someone to turn to when you're not sure if you're going the total wrong direction, when you're not sure if what you're writing is even worth writing. Having that external support person, that person who cares about you and cares about your book, it's priceless. So, that said, as you are kind of moving through your writing time, if you don't have that support, I bet that you are noticing it. And I am so excited to let you all know that we are now accepting rolling applications to the memoir method. So, If you have been waiting for getting this type of support, the type of support where I am in your book, I know exactly what you're trying to do, I understand the challenges of your life, and I am cheering you personally on. If that sounds good, I would love to have you. Head over to pageandpodium.com/apply to set up a time to chat. We're going to get you in that program. We're going to get you moving forward in no time. I can't wait to see you there. Have you ready? You know what they say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And this is exactly what holds so many people back on their memoir projects. That is exactly why we created the Memoir Method Checklist, a full, complete list of every single step you need to take to get that memoir written, published, and marketed successfully. You can download it now at pageandpodium.com/checklist.